Another week of AI.
It's a good segue, because rewind the clock back 4 or 5 years. If we had just been having a similar conversation, we would be frustrated with each other because we wouldn't have any understanding of like ChatGPT wouldn't be a thing, right? It's just it didn't exist. OpenAI was largely built, under the cover. That's a whole different topic. You can go into the history of how that came about, but it's difficult to really understand how careers will change. I do think that when you look at the structure of how we're taught and the structure of opportunities, um, I, I do think that there's something in the way that some of these models were created, that if you ask the right questions, you can reveal some of the answers. Meaning, asking individual models context and questions around how they would take the structure of the military and then transition that training environment into here's what's coming next in terms of of an opportunity. And so I sent you on LinkedIn, Asif, just kind of a summary of like 7 roles of career paths where veterans may thrive in the age of AI agents and MCP, right? Or so that AI mission planner, a multi-agent operations manager, that human in a loop supervisor that we just talked about. It's interesting you had talked about the ethical hacking component, because number 3 is an ethical AI compliance officer, or rules of engagement architect. And this is talking about in industry, right? So you could be working on the flight line at Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa one day, you go through separations. 3 weeks later, you could be working for a company as a rules of engagement architect or an ethical AI compliance officer. You could be a number 4 would be an agent simulation or training designer, which I think is pretty cool. Number 5 is digital twin analyst and agent oriented systems integrator. Number 6 would be an autonomous systems operation lead, whether it's on the defense side or on the Fed Civ side. So think like, how can you take the domain expertise of the NNSA, for instance, the Department of Energy, all the documentation and years of experience that they have, just outside of the context of the research arm, but like that whole arsenal there, like, oof, is there an autonomous systems operation lead that you can take your domain expertise running, operations in country somewhere, and then use that project management based experience coupled with your agent that you built or that is provided to you from your federal agency to go and serve as a on contract to go and architect solutions here. That's one thing. And then last but not least, AI safety and reliability technician. So we run into this quite a bit. I was sitting in a conference 2 or 3 years ago, and they were ragging a little bit on like object recognition capability of AI models. And they're like, this vision model, here's how they describe it. Oh, it doesn't even know what it is. Right. What they were saying is the context needed in that vision model to recognize the object and subsequently be able to adequately provide information and context back to the prompt provider. Like that system wasn't efficient enough for it to be a thing. Well, now it is. And not only is it a thing, there are phenomenal platforms out there that can use either existing images or they can use the DALL-E model, like a synthetic. So synthetic AI, they have a platform called Rake where they can do surveillance. And Bobby, shut your ears off just for a second if this scares you, just because military and government, it can use geospatial data, it can use object recognition, but it can also use your prompts to create an AI generated image to then go and search for that image in its satellite imagery. Like it's fascinating, like the way that things have advanced. But the power of an individual using a tool like that ethically and for law enforcement and or to assist in the execution of a mission or exercise, super powerful. And it absolutely is impacting mission planning at scale right now.